So if I may ask you about the issue of elections, in the US we saw that there was a group of voters who expressed their grievances that they were not heard by the political establishment, and in Singapore recently there was a piece by an academic who called the G2011 or mini Brexit.
Who was the academic?
Gillian Koh. She wrote in the Straits Times. Yeah, she described the G2011 as our mini Brexit vote because of the hot button issues then of immigration and labour policy. So I was wondering if you see any parallels or lessons that can be drawn from the recent election results.
I think in any election there's a mix of motives. People vote for or against a political party. It's partly the policies, it's partly the promise, it's partly an emotional identification or lack of identification. Sometimes it's a desire for change. One of the factors is which will influence voters is whether they feel in a good mood or not, whether they're satisfied or not with life. And that depends on what their expectations are and how things have turned out. And sometimes the world develops in a certain direction and you have to go with it. And it can be very difficult to go with it. I mean, the changes induced by globalization, the Rust Belt problems, the uncertainty over jobs, these are real problems which people feel. You have to address them, you have to make people not only deal with the problems, but make people feel that their concerns have been heard and are being attended to. And at the same time, also be able to get people to understand that, well, there are problems, but some of these are not avoidable, and it's not something which the government can wish away or which is a result of the wrong set of policies, because technology changes, the way the economy changes. Some of these you can't easily control just by issuing a policy. So when it comes to the election, it's how do people feel? How well have you met their aspirations? At the same time, how well have we been able to make people understand what is happening and accept that we are doing the best for them? And sometimes you do better, you get strong support, sometimes you don't, and then you lose some votes. I mean, I think Brexit and the US presidential election, compared to what happened in Singapore, I think is a massive difference in scale.
How then do we prevent some such sentiments from taking hold in Singapore, taking into account that in 2015, people, perhaps the mood changed?
There is no magic formula. You have to work together, you have to work hard. The government must have policies which generally will be working for people. At the same time, we have to develop a sense of identity and togetherness within Singapore so you don't have a deep divide within the society. In Brexit and in the US, I think there's a very deep divide in the US between the blues and the reds, the Democrats and the Republicans, two sides. Democrats, many of them in the cities and the two coasts, the Republicans in the Midwest and the heartlands. In the case of the Brexit, there was also a divide geographically between London and the rest of the province and the rest of England, educationally between the well-educated and the not so well-educated. And I think also in terms of income between the better off and the not so well off. So these are social divides which we have to try very hard not to allow to widen and to split our society. Because if you do, you may mean well, but to rebuild those bridges is very difficult.
When you spoke about the Rust Belt problem, you emphasized a lot on the need for equity and for people to feel it.
Yes.
From the government's perspective, are we looking at policies that push for more aggressive redistribution, or what is the way forward? And we're looking at good policies.
Well, in fact, what we have been doing is what we believe is the way forward. On the one hand, to focus a lot on giving our people skills and abilities which will help them to do well in the new economy, whether in schools and polys and universities, ITE, or in life through Skills Future. On the other hand, to make sure that everybody feels fairly treated, and if you're not doing so well on your own, well, you get an extra leg up. So therefore we have Workfare, which is a very substantial scheme, We've got schemes like the PG package to take care of the older people who worked during a time when the economy was not doing so well. And we've got basic schemes like our healthcare system, our HDB home ownership scheme, which makes everybody know that if you're in Singapore, not everybody is equally well off, but even if you're not well off, you're not badly off. I think that's very important. And if you compare to where we were just 10 years ago, the schemes which we have introduced and the amount which we are doing and spending has gone up considerably. So I think the spending, the welfare scheme, the social safety nets is one part, but the self-reliance and giving people the ability to look after themselves and investing in people, I think that is another very important part.
Thank you, Peter.